Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Public Improvement Commission hearing of October 24th, 2019. Before starting with our hearing minutes, I want to thank the cable office for their hard work in figuring out a way to make sure that we were capturing this on video today. Our first item of the hearing minutes, at the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on October 10th, 2019. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the PIC hearing held on October 10, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to the public hearing, our first item is on a petition by RECPV 40 Warren Owner LLC for the discontinuance of any and all rights to travel the public may have had within the following public ways in Charlestown. Warren Street on its southwesterly side at address number 40, northwest of Henley Street, and Henley Street on its northerly side west of Warren Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019, and this is as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Discontinuance Plan, Highway, Warren Street and Henley Street, Charlestown, one sheet, dated December 27th, 2018. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Fred Keeler from H.W. Moore with Project Civil Engineers, Toby Banta representing the petitioner. So we would, on the first petition, we would like to request a continuation to the meeting of November 7th in order to finish some the appraisal work and some other things that are outstanding.
Great. All right. Any questions or comments on the Todd? Okay. Members of the public. All right. I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to continue a petition of RECPV 40 Warren LLC for making of discontinuance on Warren and Henley Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
Aye. So moved. Moving on to our second item on a petition by RECPV 40 Warren Owner LLC for the vertical discontinuance of portions of the following public ways in Charlestown, vertically above the grades of the sidewalks. The locations are Warren Street on its southwesterly side at address number 40, northwest of Henley Street on its northerly side west of Warren Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Discontinuance Plan, vertical Warren Street and Henley Street, Charlestown, 3 sheets dated September 6th, 2019.
We would like to request a continuation to the November 7th meeting for the same reasons. The appraisals aren't quite ready yet.
Great. Questions or comments on the request for continuance? Todd? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the request for continuance.
I make a motion on public hearing agenda item 2 to a petition by RECP 5 40 Warren Owner LLC for the vertical discontinuance on Warren and Henley Streets to continue this matter to November 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to our third item on a petition by RECPV 40 Warren Owner LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Charlestown, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction as well as the removal of a driveway curb cut. Locations are Warren Street on its southwesterly side at address number 40, northwest of Henley Street, and Henley Street on its northerly side west of Warren Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019. And this is shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, Warren Street and Henley Street, Charlestown, one sheet dated September 6th, 2019.
We'd also like to request a continuation on this petition, but if we could spend a minute or two discussing the changes to the scope of work based on the comments we received at new business on the 10th.
That'd be great. That's good.
So the petition, this is the plan that was filed with the petition, showed a limited scope of work, installing edge stone and reconstructing a section of sidewalk on Henley Street to close off an existing curb cut. And some repair work to the existing brick walk on Warren Street that resulted from damage from the utility installations. The Commission commented about potential damage to the walks by construction equipment and so forth. And last week, some of the team went out and took a look at the existing walks, and we did increase the scope of work based on that, based on your comments. And this plan is being circulated to some of the city agencies for review, and hopefully we'll have feedback before the next hearing. But what we're proposing now is to reconstruct the entirety of the Henley Street sidewalk. As part of that, we'd like to replace about 30 feet of the existing brick walk, the cement concrete walk. So we have the brick turn the corner about 6 feet, but then the remainder would be concrete. So that's a change.
And you're talking that through with both with disabilities, with landmarks, and
It's been, they did receive the plan, so yes.
Okay,
so that's
got it.
one of the reasons for the continuation.
Continuance
is
of
to
this
get feedback.
conversation.
And then on Warren Street, from about the midpoint of the building back to the corner of Henley, there are some repairs that need to be made, so we're showing that as being the area where the proposed new brick took place. And from midpoint northerly, that sidewalk is in really good condition, so I don't see any need to take it up.
And can you talk about any street lighting you're putting in on Henley?
Sorry?
Street lighting on Henley or one?
Street lighting, we've added the two street lights that are proposed by the street lighting division.
Okay.
Call for the contractor to coordinate sidewalk reconstruction of the street lighting division. We understand that the foundations are in, but the light poles are not been put up yet.
And do you know who you're working with with street lighting?
John Yetman?
John Gatton, okay. All right. I'll move back to John. We want to explore sort of the right way to do the street lights on Henley Street. Anything else on the specific repairs you want to point out?
Those are the changes we wanted,
Good point.
the additional scope of work we wanted to run by the commission, and we would like to continue this to the 7th also.
Perfect. All right. And in that time, to have those conversations with landmarks, with disabilities, with PIC would be great.
Yes.
Other questions or comments on the specific repair plan?
Yes, we do have where there was a site plan that was in for our review that it's associated with this location, and that we will want to see any changes to go check that against site plan work.
Yes.
Todd?
All set.
All right. Members of the public? All right. I'll entertain a motion on this item to continue it until November 7th.
On public hearing agenda item 3, I make a motion to continue a petition by RECP 540 Warren Owner LLC for specific repairs on Warren Street and Henley Street, and continue this matter till November 7th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to our fourth item on a petition by RECP v. 40 Warren Owner LLC for the granting of a projection license for the installation of retail signage and canopies over portions of the following public ways in Charlestown: Warren Street on its northwesterly side at address number 40 northwest of Henley Street, and Henley Street on its northerly side west of Warren Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019, and this is as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, License Plan for Sign, Highway, Warren Street, Charlestown, one sheet dated December 31st, 2018.
We would also like to request a continuation to the November 7th meeting for this petition.
Questions or comments on continuance? Todd? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue this item until November 7th.
On public hearing agenda item 4, I make a motion to approve a petition by RECP 540 Warren Owner LLC for a projection license on Warren Street and Henley Street to continue this matter to November 7th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved.
Thank you.
See you on the 7th. Moving on to our next item on a petition by 144 Addison Street LLC for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to Addison Street, a public way in East Boston, on its northerly side at address number 144, generally northwest of Saratoga Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019. And this is as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Pedestrian Easement Plan, Addison Street, East Boston, one sheet dated October 9th, 2019.
Morning, Chris Sadi with Ditch Engineering. I'm here with Ben Thomas of Arrow Street and Steve Perdue, 144 Addison LLC. So we're here for 144 Addison Street for the pedestrian easement and specific repairs. Project site basically bounded Addison Street on the south, Brandywine Apartments on the north. The west side is an existing site, and the east side are some residences on Saratoga Street. One of the major questions that came up last time was kind of just giving this site in the context of its surroundings. So we have a rendering kind of showing it maybe a little more clearly than last time. So this is the abutting site to the west. Route 1A McClellan Highway is out here. This is Addison Street, Saratoga, Brandywine, up through here. This is our site. This is the new building. And so the pedestrian easement is along Addison Street just so we can maintain the requested 7-foot concrete sidewalk width.
Questions on either the overall project or the pedestrian easement? Todd?
All set.
Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the pedestrian easement.
I'll make a motion on petition of 144 Addison Street for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to Addison Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to our next item. On a petition by 144 Addison Street LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in East Boston, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, driveway curb cuts, and a raised crosswalk. The locations are Addison Street on its northeasterly side, generally at address number 144 between Saratoga Street and William F. McClellan Highway, and Saratoga Street at Addison Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, Addison Street, East Boston, 3 sheets dated August 2019.
Again, Chris Heide, Niche Engineering, Ben Thomas, Arrow Street, Steve Perdue, 144 Addison. So basically, we have the specific repairs along Addison Street, new concrete sidewalks from McClellan Highway, Route 1A, all the way down to Saratoga Street on the north side of the street. There's an existing tree along Addison Street, which is to remain as is, and a couple of new driveway entrances, one on the west side of our project site, just to allow access to a surface drive area, and then one on the east side to allow access to an existing driveway, which is where people just drive over the curb right now. We're also proposing a raised crosswalk at the intersection of Saratoga and Addison, and then to relocate the existing pedestrian ramp across Saratoga Street.
Chris, can you walk me through the eastern driveway?
The eastern driveway?
So this one? Yeah, exactly.
So the existing condition there is a driveway which is used by abutters who live on Saratoga Street for access to their back lots. And we're just formalizing it. It's also going to be used for fire access in the future.
And if I'm not mistaken, you're shifting the crosswalk from the sort of southern side of the intersection to the northern side, is that right?
Right. The existing crosswalk is over here.
Yeah.
There's an apex ramp, so in order to fix that, we can't line it up without moving the catch basin and kind of just snowballs. So rather than doing that, we're just moving it to the other side. We can provide that same crossing.
And we're obviously raising the crossing into the,
Right, so
Mount
the
Addison Street.
existing ramps will go away. We'll have a sidewalk about approximately 6-inch revealed, and that'll be flush across the street.
Other questions or comments on this?
Yes, so we want to check what the impact of that raised crosswalk will do to drainage patterns, because we knew they got changed from what was originally looked at.
So the drainage pattern right now, Saratoga Street is crowned, and water flows along the curb on either side here. So we're not proposing any changes really to the, just minor changes to get the ramp in. Water should continue to flow along the gutter lines of the sketch basin on the south corner.
Okay, so there is location in that where it's going to allow the water to go along the curb. That's what raised usually means, that, yeah, where it's going to come right up to the curb, now you act as a dam. So that's what I wanted to know if you're,
Coming down Addison Street, does the water come down this way?
It shouldn't. So it's still sloping towards the catch basin either way. There's a little like stub end in here, but the grade still is higher here than it is at the catch basin, so water's still going to flow towards that catch basin.
On the
well,
Addison Street side,
Right.
that's not good.
Is there
On
water
the
coming
Addison- Yeah, on
down?
the Addison Street side, it's flowing this way.
well, even then, we'd like to go through that before we would say that we have to look at that. We'll have to check that.
Okay. All right. So are we looking at 2 weeks instead?
No, we can approve a contingent on you getting that approved by BWS.
Okay. And so we've been coordinating with Phil over at Boston Water and Sewer, so we can talk with him about that.
Fine.
Great.
Chris, you remember what's the ground floor use on the site?
The ground floor use?
Yeah.
Residential.
That's all. Other questions or comments? Todd?
All set.
Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this, again contingent upon Water and Sewer's final review of the raised crosswalk.
I'll make a motion on a petition of 144 Addison Street for the making of specific repairs on Addison Street and Saratoga Street as read into the record by the chair, contingent upon final approval by BWSC for the raised crosswalk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Our next item is on a petition by Crown Castle Fiber for a grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install new telecommunication conduit with city shadow within B Street, a public way in South Boston, located generally at address number 70 between West 4th Street and West 5th Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019, and this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant of Location Plan, 70 B Street, Boston, 3 sheets dated September 3rd, 2019.
Good morning, Commission members. I'm Shelley Cullen with Axis Engineering Group, and today representing Crown Castle Fiber. So this is a petition for a grant of location. We did go through the process for lead company. There were no interested participants. And then when we were here last, there was a question about the Eversource, the possibility of leasing Eversource. And we did get, I did get that documentation, and I sent that over. Basically, those two sections, they only have one empty conduit, and they're not able to lease that when they only have one spare. So we had to move forward this way.
And just for the record, there's nothing that is to the west of this location. There's not an Eversource connection that's to the west of this location. This is the closest Eversource connection.
I'm certain that they checked all that out, yes. Yeah. Yeah, as we've said before, this is their last option. They would certainly prefer to lease.
Other questions or comments on this? Todd?
No, one other question that came up was regarding the notion of this being a micro trench versus traditional trench.
Yep.
I had a conversation with Katie Cho at our construction management division, and we will determine whether this is going to be micro trench or a traditional trench with her. The alignment's not going to change either way, but I've talked about this with Shelley as well, and she's aware that if this is micro trench and it does get dug up in the future by anybody, be it the city or another utility company, that Crown Castle is solely responsible for replacing that micro trench conduit, and she's agreed to that.
Shelley, you're comfortable with that?
Correct.
So we'll
Yep.
determine the means and that. Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right, members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
On public hearing agenda item 7, I make a motion to approve a petition by Crown Castle Fiber for a grant of location to install new telecommunication conduit on B Street, South Boston.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you.
Moving on to our next item, on a petition by Crown Castle Fiber for a grant of location with lead company status and no participants to install new telecommunication and conduit with city shadow within D Street, a public way in South Boston, located generally at address number 409, generally between Anchor Street and Fargo Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Grant of Location Plan, 409 D Street, Boston, 3 sheets dated April 2019.
Morning. Chris Murray with the Giamari Group on behalf of Crown Castle Fiber, looking for grant location along D Street. We went through the process of application and we did not get any participants to go in the trench with us. The bulk of the installation is micro trenching, with the exception of the breakouts into the electric system manholes.
Right now, you're showing it sort of going up, essentially right up against the,
For the most part against the curb line.
That's correct.
Are you in the parking lane or the bike lane?
Parking lane.
other questions or comments on this?
same commentary regarding micro trench versus traditional trench. We'll determine that with Katie Cho in construction management, and Crown Castle will be solely responsible for repair or replacement if damaged.
And Chris, you're comfortable with that?
Comfortable.
All right, members of the public? I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a petition for Crown Castle Fiber for a grant of location on D Street as read into the record by the chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Thank
moved.
you.
Moving on to our next item, on a joint petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department and the Boston Public Library for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to Adams Street, a public way in Dorchester, on its easterly side at address number 690 between Delmont Street and Oakton Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019, and this is shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Pedestrian Easement Plan, 690 Adams Street, Delmont Street, Oakton Street, Dorchester, one sheet dated October 3rd, 2019.
Good morning, Dominic Rinaldi with the BSC Group. With me is Jim McGaffigan of Public Facilities Department and Michael Schambacher of the project architect NADA. The pedestrian easement we're requesting is basically the full space in front of the new library building, between the face of the building and the right-of-way on Adams Street. It's to both provide as wide a pedestrian area as possible and to accommodate some street improvements that we're proposing, and we'll get to with the specific repairs in a minute.
Questions or comments on this, please? Before we get to this, can you just give us a quick overview of the actual project itself?
Sure, absolutely. So the project itself is the complete demolition and reconstruction of the library branch at 690 Adams Street. It's a larger, fully modern library facility with some outdoor and indoor space for library and community programs. And it'll involve improvements along all three streets, so Oakton, Adams, and Delmont.
Questions on the petition? Todd?
What's that?
Sean?
Yeah, my name is Chong Liu. I'm the legal counsel for this board, and I just want to mention we have been working very hard with the BPL, their line departments to work out the easement agreement, and hopefully will be signed soon. So thank you.
Any other members of the public? I'll entertain a motion on this item.
On public hearing agenda item 9, I make a motion to approve a joint petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department and the Boston Public Library for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement in the vicinity of 690 Adams Street, Boston.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Moving on to our next item, on a petition, joint petition by the City of Boston Public Facilities Department and the Boston Public Library for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Dorchester, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, street trees, landscaping, bike racks, and driveway curb cuts. Locations are Adams Street on its easterly side at address number 690 between Delmont Street and Oakton Street, and Delmont Street on its northerly side east of Adams Street, as well as Oakton Street on its southerly side east of Adams Street. This was new business on October 10th, 2019. And this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, 690 Adams Street, Delmont Street, Oakton Street, Dorchester, 3 sheets dated October 3rd, 2019.
Thank you. Again, same project team, same project. To just orient you on the plan for this sake, starting on the north side, left is Oakton Street, plan bottom, Adams Street, and plan right, Delmont. There will be specific repairs proposed on all 3 streets. If we will, I'd like to just work my way around from Oakton to the other side. So starting at the, I guess, the eastern edge on Oakton, one of the changes we mentioned at the new business hearing at the request of staff, we have taken the driveway for the library and combined the curb cut with the abutters driveway curb cut. Otherwise, it was a little awkward dead spot in between, and shifted to the city's narrow sidewalk driveway configuration with the tip-down curbs as opposed to the curb returns. So that is shown on the plans. As you work your way down to the intersection with Adams and Oakton, at the commission's request, we re-looked at those 2. Currently, there's an apex ramp on that corner going both across Oakton and Adams. We had previously proposed to shift that into 2, and we've re-looked at that. Maintain 2 Basically, on the third sheet that we've provided you, we kind of blew it up and provided some grades so you can see how it would really function more than just a graphical presentation. We've shifted the crossing of Oakton closer to the corner, so it is more of a straight shot for pedestrians coming down Adams Street. As a result, we've had to shift the crossing on Adams Street just a little bit down Adams, but not much, a couple of feet. But what we've been able to do is maintain a 4-foot level space all through the corner. So anyone not using those ramps it won't be an up, down type situation. It'll just be a slightly down through the level landing and then back into Adams. I think that was a big improvement and worked out well. As you continue down Adams, we have some custom shaped and sized tree pits, graded tree pits with 5 street trees, as well as an accessible pedestrian drop-off area and some custom bike racks in the right-of-way. The bike racks will be a nice lettered spell out ADAMS. I think that's right. Yeah, Adams. Let me make sure I spell it right. And then again, as you continue into the corner, at the commission's request, we made some revisions to the 2. Again, there is currently an apex ramp at that corner crossing both streets, Delmont and Adams. And again, we made some changes, generally because of a utility pole here and a shallow telecom manhole here. We kept the crossing of Delmont roughly where it is. It shifts a tiny bit, but not much. But we have had to shift that crossing of Adams over more than we did on the corner of Oakton. It still works out very well. We've gone to the city's standard wider than 6.5-foot sidewalk. It does fit, created a level area behind both, as well as sort of sidewalk in between. It doesn't actually ramp between them. It's about a 4% slope. So again, I think that I hope meets what the commission requested in terms of splitting those 2 crosswalks. And then as we continue up Delmont, it's very simple: replacement of the curb and sidewalk and closure of an existing curb cut that isn't necessary.
It's a minor thing on the Adams bike rack.
Sure.
I mean, I've been thinking about this, but the ADAM all seems to have be functional. The S, I'm not sure how it actually. So I almost wonder if there's like a large sort of eyelet hidden behind the S or something that allows it to actually have a functional role besides the decking one. Is that?
Yes, okay, that's something that we are working on right now.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, and this is probably why Chong's sitting here, but I assume there's in all much of the tree pit maintenance. This is not
Yes, yeah, the intent of the tree pits and the drop-off area would be maintained by the library under an LMI.
Right. So, right, and I know when we brought up, we talked about some of the LMI for both, I think, the Johnson building as well as for this. Is there an update on where that stands?
Do you want to take that?
We're working on the agreement. Agreement should be signed anytime now. And I just want to make one more comment about this license agreement. And I received a note from BPL, Boston Public to Library. They're going to maintain the improvement. So we have to work out the details about the agreement based on the plan approved by this board. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Questions or comments about?
Yes. I was looking at the plan that was originally submitted, and it showed just having crosswalks. There was no raised crosswalks. So with what has been changed on the crosswalks, there still are no raised crosswalks. So
Correct, no raised crosswalks.
Right, that's what I wanted to be sure. Sorry.
Yep.
Just the rest.
Okay.
Questions or comments? Todd?
Just that the Commission for Persons with Disabilities has yet to see the updated ped ramp designs, so as long as they can get a chance to take a look at those and bless them before they go to construction.
Perfect. That'd be great. Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this contingent upon final review by the Mayor's Office of Persons with Disabilities.
I'll make a motion on the joint petition of the City of Boston Public Facilities Department and the Boston Public Library for the making of specific repairs on Adams Street, Delmont Street, and Oakton Street as read into the record by the Chair, contingent upon the final review and approval by the Commissions for Persons with Disabilities.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. Our first item is North Harvard Street, Brighton, a private utility license on a petition by the President and Fellows of Harvard College.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. I'm Peter Kohansky from Goulston and Storrs, here on behalf of Harvard University, joined by Danny Rico and Mark Handley from Harvard, and Mark Younghans from VHB is the engineer on this proposed work. Harvard is requesting approval for a private utility license for the installation of a hot and chilled water line that crosses North Harvard Street. This conduit's part of the extension of the utility microgrid that already includes electric, lighting, and telecommunications conduits. They were approved by the Commission at the end of 2017 and have been installed already. This is another conduit to add to that group. So I'll turn it over to Mark, who can run through the plans.
I never know where to talk over here. This is a context plan. It shows you where you are on the Alston campus. This is the science building that is almost, it looks like it's almost done. The district energy facility is down here, Western Avenue, of course, and North Harvard Street, Barry's Corner being right here. In the institutional master plan for the Alston campus, Harvard committed to installation of a district energy facility and local microgrid control and electrical and hot water and cold water to make it a more sustainable campus. This improvement is the next extension of that. We had come to the Commission previously to install a tunnel here, which on Western Avenue thinks that to be deeper, so a tunnel was necessary. And this is an extension of those utilities into the other part of the Alston campus. We've of course, done our utility and agency outreach. We're not changing any of the sidewalks or curb lines or roadway grades. We did get some comments from Boston Water and Sewer where they wanted us to increase the offsets from their sewer and drain lines and also encase their sewer and drain line. We also got a comment from the MWRA to increase the offset to their 48-inch water line. We're currently going through an 8M process with the MWRA, which is a design review, and they're very focused on detailed supportive excavation and that sort of thing, because they're very concerned about this water line. It's one of the 5, I think, that feed downtown. And so we've designed, this is a true scale section. Here's a better one. It shows you the relationship with the existing utilities, which we have a good beat on because we did the previous work there, so we know right where everything is. And getting below that with the chilled water and returning the hot water. It extends just beyond the right-of-way, and it sets us up for the future at this location, and extends all the way back to the district energy facility, which is also approaching completion.
Mark, you're showing a foot and a half now offset. What's the thought for both water and sewer and MWRA? What would be the preferred?
18 inches. We had started with a foot.
Oh, so
we
the foot and a half
increased
is
it
the
to 18
expansion?
inches.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Folks are comfortable.
I'm sure we could build it closer. Oh, and we have this is essentially a utility license. We have sort of a modified LMI that covers that work that's in draft. we'll work through in the next couple of weeks, similar to the one we did previously.
Any requirements for pre or post construction video of your assets?
We could, but right at the moment, more importantly, when they are going to have this work done, would be to be sure we were aware that we could have someone to inspect while it's open.
Of course.
Yes.
We'll do a pre-construction meeting and set that up.
Yes, and then at that, we can discuss anything about whether you need to do the pre or post. We'll check to see if we have anything on those right now.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Mark or Peter, anything else you want to cover?
That's it.
All right, Todd? All set. Members of the public? All right, 2 weeks enough time? See you guys on November 7th.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is Winthrop Square, Devonshire Street, Otis Street, and Boston proper, pedestrian easement specific repairs on a set of petitions by MCAF Winthrop LLC.
Good morning, Commissioner Osgood and members of the Commission. My name is Kathleen McNeil. I'm here on behalf of MCAF Winthrop LLC, the developer of Winthrop Center. I'm here today with Chris Hodney from Niche Engineering, Shauna Gilly-Smith from Ground Inc., our landscape architect, and Dennis Hill from Suffolk Construction, our construction manager. We're here today for a grant of a pedestrian easement as well as specific Devonshire Street and what is known as Winthrop Square. Just by way of background, Winthrop Center, for some of you who are a little bit new to the commission maybe, new face Amy.
Never seen it before.
Winthrop Center is 1.6 million square feet. It is on the site of the former Winthrop Square garage that was owned by the City of Boston. The garage was demolished earlier this year, and under a foundation permit, we have just about completed the foundations for the future project. It will stand just under 700 feet. It's a mixed-use project with office on the lower 25 floors and condominiums up to the 54th floor. Part of the project going through the Article 80 process involved reimagining the Winthrop Square Park that was there, although it is a PIC property, not City of Boston Parks and Recreation. In order to better understand what we're doing in the park, I thought I would just quickly show you our ground floor plan, which includes a connector between Federal Street and Winthrop Square, and then you go along to Winthrop Lane, which is another heavily used pedestrian lane. So we're really connecting everybody back, quite frankly, to the Greenway and to South Station. So the inside will be a public passageway, which will include some food kiosks, and off hours, it will allow for gathering space for the community. This connector space will actually be deeded, as always, I guess what folks are calling POPs, privately owned public space. So that will run with the property. So I give you that background because it ties in to what we are doing at the Winthrop Square Park. And that is, there is a raised crosswalk from the connector to the Winthrop Square Park along Devonshire Street. Devonshire Street, which is currently closed for construction, will be reopened. It will continue to be one way as it is today. The park itself has grown slightly because we have captured back some of the unused roadway, and we're giving it to the pedestrian realm. We're using paving materials that we used up the street at Choppers Park. That park is now 3 years old. Been very happy with the way that paving material has withstood the New England various temperature fluctuations. We've worked very closely with disabilities to make sure that we have the proper path of travel. There is concrete sidewalks along Devonshire Street, and then there is a crosswalk over Otis Street. Otis Street will not have specialty paving because that's the path for the MBTA Orange Line buses, or MBTA buses. So we want to make sure that that's much easier to maintain. The LMI agreement will require us to maintain all of the specialty features, and there will be some lighting integrated into the park as well. There is a fountain. The fountain's designed that on a windy day, it will have sensors that will automatically bring the water down. It's also designed as a sculptural element, again with lighting, because we all know in New England, you can't use the fountain all that many days. So this will also be a place that has, you know, the sculptural, the fountain itself is a sculptural element. Many of the planting beds are raised because there is some utilities underneath this park. It was a roadway at one point in the history of Boston. So we have worked very closely, had a meeting with Boston Water and Sewer to make sure that we understood where all the various utilities were and we'll coordinate with that. So I'll pause there for any questions, and then Chris Hodney can walk you through all of the details.
Great overview. Any questions on the project overall?
Well, it's brought up that, yes, they had met with us, that I saw that the plan was up here, was signed dated on the stamp of October 18th. I want to be aware that we will be looking to have that plan for a review, see if what we had discussed is reflected, that it needs to still go through back for the site plan approval process. That's ongoing.
Right, yeah, it's ongoing right now. We're in the middle of that with Phil. Sure. All right, so starting with Devonshire Street. From the north side, we have the intersection of Devonshire Street and Franklin Street. There's an existing pedestrian ramp there, which we're going to reconstruct. And because the reciprocal ramp is existing, non-compliant, we're going to reconstruct that, also regrade it so that it will be compliant. Moving down towards the site, we are extending the curb out into where the street is today. That's going to sort of make the street just a little straighter. It's kind of too wide for the traffic coming through it today. It also gives us room to plant some trees and put some permeable pavers there, so add some greener elements to the sidewalk. We're going to maintain the existing sidewalk that is there today beyond the new curb that we're putting in. We then get down, there is an existing pedestrian ramp. We're going to reconstruct that. That will come across the street to the new park, which I'll get to on the next plan. There'll be a concrete crosswalk across the street. From this, there's a concrete sidewalk coming towards the site, and then it will connect to the proposed concrete sidewalk in front of the site. And then the majority of the existing sidewalk is actually within the project site, so to facilitate the sidewalk, we have a pedestrian easement just to get the width that we need. There's going to be a new driveway 22 feet wide to provide access to the garage underneath. Crossing over that, we get to the main residential entrance, right? Which will have a concrete path travel in front of it, and then there will be pavers at the pavement edge, the permeable pavers.
Sorry, can you just point out where that, just lost you on that last bit. Where's the main, got it. So continuing on, then we get to sort of a larger concrete sidewalk which leads to the raised crossing that goes across to the park. And then moving down towards the edge of the parcel, we have a couple more trees, more permeable pavers, and then another 30-foot wide approximately loading dock curb cut.
So your only curb cut is the loading dock curb cut on the far.
There are two curb cuts. There's the curb cut on this side right here, 20. It's called Lotus 24 on the plans that you have. We've reduced it to 22.
Got it.
And that's for access to the garage. Got it. Sorry. This one's for access to the loading dock.
And what paver are you using, or you're proposing to use on Devonshire?
Franklin Street.
Same as Franklin Street.
Which is a concrete paver.
Concrete paver. And that'd be part of the LMI.
Yes, but it's a different paver than the ones on Otis Street.
There is no longer any pavers on Otis Street.
So on Otis and then on the crossing that is the furthest north. Yeah,
That's concrete.
Both those are concrete, and both of those are, neither of those are raised, both of them are okay. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So the oldest section that is raised essentially, as you described.
From
that-
the connector.
Right, so it's basically that's what really
the
you're
building.
showing.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's on sheet 2, kind of, it shows the park, all the back, there's a more detail there.
You're still doing, Chris, can you talk about the Otis Street connection?
Yeah, are those pavers or not?
Concrete.
Concrete.
So it'll be the same as the crossing here. We'll have the flush granite curb and then concrete within the actual crosswalk. Similar to what was done at 1 Franklin with the crossing.
But not like concrete pavers, just like
cement
concrete
core.
Yeah.
Sidewalk
Yeah, exactly,
concrete.
right.
And that was after working with disabilities to provide a path of travel.
For others, we want to make sure that any utilities below that are in good state of repair, because it leaves quite the scar anytime you're coming up.
Yeah, we have done videotape work, and there are combined sewers out there. We also shifted the fountain so that we would be able to get access to that combined sewer overflow after meeting with Boston Water and Sewer. So the good news is those particular utilities are in good shape. Let's hope we keep them that way. But the LMI will require, if work is done, the utilities can replace with asphalt. We have to replace with the concrete pavers.
All right, thanks, Chris.
So walking through the park now, we have the raised crosswalk across Devonshire Street, which provides access through the connector to the park itself. We have catch basin on this side, and then drainage continues down Devonshire Street. So the raised crossing does present a dam, and we're collecting the water at the base of it. The park itself is going to consist of different types of pavers.
Same concrete pavers.
Same concrete pavers, different patterns.
Correct.
I guess is what I'm getting at. And then, so it comes in, there are a series of raised planters around the edge, which will have trees in them. And then the water feature, which is this oval shape in the middle. On the other side, we have, so on the north side, the nose of the park itself, there's a concrete path of travel, which bends around the nose and then comes across the street and connects to Winthrop Lane with a large curb cut.
And so we're using essentially the same sort of concrete paver here up at 1 Franklin, both in the park and potentially in the Tontine Crescent as well, just doesn't have sort of a common vocabulary connecting about that. Nice.
Yes, that is the plan, although the color will vary.
You want to walk us through the park? And then across the park and fountain. I realize we already talked about it in general, but
I don't know if there's anything more to say.
and I guess this is all right of way and
Yes.
not parkland. Have you guys met with the Parks Department to review the actual design?
Yes, we did have a meeting with the Parks Department. I don't think she's here today, but
It'd be helpful to have Liza remember the right person is from Parks, just from there. I defer to their Parks expertise over certainly mine
Okay.
in terms of what should any design. Other questions or comments on this with Parks? Can you walk us quickly through the pedestrian easement?
Yes.
That's the part.
So the pedestrian easement is along the east side of Devonshire Street, directly in front of the new building. And it is, at its widest, it's about 7.4 feet wide, and it's really more just to provide a clean connection to the abutting parcel. And that'll be all concrete sidewalk along the face of the building.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Todd?
Good.
Members of the public?
Hi, good morning, board members. My name is Ana Calderon from Councilor Flink's office, and I would just like to read a statement in support of the project.
Perfect.
We support the Winthrop Square project as an open space improvement measure. We know that also includes new accessible paths through and around the square, as well as raised crosswalks. The project is also grants a pedestrian easement on private property to increase the accessible sidewalk dimensions. Pedestrian safety and access for persons with disabilities is of the most important issues to Councilor Flynn, and we are pleased that the project team has been working closely with the Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Flynn, Councilor Flynn as well. Anything else you guys want to cover? All right, 2 weeks enough time? All right, we'll see you on November 7th.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next item, it's 175 Ipswich Street, Lansdowne Street in Boston proper, pedestrian easements, specific repairs, projection license, earth retention license on a set of petitions by 175 Ipswich Street LLC.
Chairman Osgood, members of the commission. My name is Ruth Bond Sr. from Flink Consulting. I'm here today on behalf of 175 LLC, Ipswich Street LLC to present the project at 175 Ipswich Street. Here with me today and presenting our request, I will overview the project. Brian Fairbanks is here to walk you through the request before the commission. We also have Kathleen Brill of Foley Hoag, Michael Lamphere of JLL, and Chuck Izzo, the project architect, and Catherine Lewis, engineer from VHB.
Great.
So this is a little bit hard to see, but I will quickly overview the project for you. Fenway Park, this is also referred to as the Fenway Theater. The project is the triangle area on the east side of Fenway Park. It really has 3 components. The purple is the new proposed performing arts theater, which will seat approximately 5,400 people or accommodate 5,400 people. The area in pink here is improvements to the bleacher area, which will be on top of the existing Fenway garage. That will accommodate additional concessions, bathrooms, and accessible seating for Fenway Park proper. And in gray here, a little hard to see, is an area which would combine some concession functions, backup house for both the theater and Fenway Park, and also include the loading, off-street loading facilities for both Fenway Park and the theater proper. To accomplish this project, this is an aerial overview. This lot will be consumed by the theater. It's referred to as the triangle lot at the corner of Ipswich and Lansdowne Street. Approximately half of the Fenway garage will be demoed to make room for the additional theater and to accommodate some internal improvements for backup house. And there will be a 2-story addition onto the theater to accomplish the bleacher improvements that serve Fenway Park. So that's existing conditions. That's a modeled version of the Fenway Theater and associated Fenway Park improvements. And then street level rendering, including the widened sidewalks along Lansdowne Street, along Ipswich Street, relocation of the bus facility, the bus stop for the 55 from roughly this area to just down the sidewalk to make more room for pedestrians and transit users. As well as a number of streetscape improvements that Brian will go through.
Great.
So
actions here today. If it pleases the commission, I'm going to start with the specific repair plan. Is that okay? Yep. All right. So starting with Lansdowne Street, as Ruth had mentioned, towards what's referred to as the triangle lot where the theater itself is going to be located. We're expanding the existing sidewalk approximately 8 feet into Lansdowne Street. This would include, new vertical curbing, new concrete sidewalk. In that area, we will also be locating new streetlights. There will be security bollards, and there will be the existing trees that are there today, kind of as you go further west on Lansdowne, those will remain. There will be one existing tree that is going to be removed as part of this project, and that's because it's in conflict with where the proposed canopy is going to go. And based on coordination with the BPDA and other members of the city, they wanted to have kind of as much unencumbered space as possible for people gathering for the theater. The majority actually of the specific repairs are kind of happening more on Ipswich Street. The only other thing I'd like to mention on Lansdowne is that there's an existing curb cut today to access the triangle lot that will be being closed as part of this project. So we're removing one curb cut on Lansdowne Street. So for Ipswich Street.
One quick thing before we.
Sure.
Sorry. That's fine. Did we look at all, consider at all, sort of tabling Lansdowne Street, any portion of it, or the preference from a sort of a public realm perspective was to build up the sidewalk instead?
That was reviewed with both the Boston Police Department and Fenway Security, and they had concerns about it.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So moving on to Ipswich Street, in a similar fashion to Lansdowne, we are increasing the width of the sidewalk. We are on the north side of Ipswich Street. We're going into the existing roadway by about 7 feet. And in that, towards the entrance to the theater, that space will be concrete sidewalk. As you go further west on west and south on Ipswich Street, we're introducing a permeable paver zone, and where, as Ruth had mentioned earlier, where the bus stop is being relocated further west, we have an area where there will be some street furnishings, including bike racks, new light poles. There will be a couple of seat cubes, like 2x2x2 granite seat cubes. And we have 3 street trees that are proposed that are not existing today on the north side of Ipswich Street. On the south side of Ipswich Street, we are continuing the roadway alignment that's part of the Boston Arts Academy project. And so we are on the south side of Ipswich Street also extending the curb and the sidewalk into the roadway. Ipswich Street itself will still have 2 travel lanes, and it will also have 5-foot bike lanes on either side. And on the south side, from kind of this part west towards the intersection with Van Ness, that's all being done as part of the Boston Arts Academy project. But we are continuing a similar street theme as what they've proposed. And again, this will have a like a 5.5-foot wide pervious paver furnishing zone with 3 street trees, and also carrying those seat cube elements that are part of Boston Arts Academy and also on the north side of Ipswich. Regarding existing curb cuts, there is about a 23-foot wide curb cut to access the triangle lot off of Ipswich Street. That is being closed as part of this project. And then today, to the existing Fenway garage building, there's an existing curb cut that's about 74 feet wide, and we are actually proposing to increase it to 85 feet wide. But again, just noting out that we're closing 2 other curb cuts, and we're asking for a small widening of this existing one, and that is in order to provide consolidated loading for both Fenway Park and for the theater. So there will be an additional load. There'll be 3 loading bays and then a trash and recycling facilities as well.
Where's pickup and drop-off happen for the theater?
So we, right now, we're going to be working with the BTD on pickup and drop-off activity. We're imagining that some will occur on Lansdowne Street. and there will be some outbound on Ipswich Street and inbound to the east of the Lansdowne intersection. But we've been asked by the BTD to look at options of flexing the curb space in front of the loading dock for pickup and drop-off during theater events. And then when the theater is operating concurrent with Fenway Park, we've been working, as the city has, with Uber and Lyft and others to try to geolocate outside of this immediate area. So we are imagining that that plan's going to continue to evolve, but right now it's on Boylston Street and further out on Beacon Street near Maitland for pickup activities. So we're going to continue to work with the city on those issues, but it's going to be a different plan for day of theater events when Fenway is not operational and for when the Fenway Park traffic management plan is in place.
At least if you're gonna drop off on a loading dock, you should extend it and take away, or like into one of those accessible spaces so that there's also an accessible place to drop people off and not just in the loading dock.
Just as a point of clarification, the 4 accessible spaces that are on the north side of Ipswich Street, those are actually being relocated from the south side of Ipswich as part of the Boston Arts Academy project.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that like you can't, everybody's not going to want to get off in a loading dock driveway apron.
Sure. And one other thing I'd like to mention, through coordination with the Disabilities Commission, they have brought up concern. We previously had a light pole that was in conflict in front of the bus shelter with where their accessible loading or drop landing pad would go. So we have since moved that light pole out of the way and it's no longer in conflict.
I think it's related to that. And we are finishing up the review of the pilot pickup drop-off area that we put in on Wilson Street. We learned a little bit about proximity of street furnishings to the curb and what does or doesn't make any particular location accessible. The cubes also look like they might pose some similar issues, so we should just walk through the detail. Cubes are a great idea. I think where they are in relation to where it's going.
Sure, we're certainly open to, if the trees need to be spaced further from the shelter, cubes can, they're not, they haven't been constructed yet, so they can, exactly. they can move.
That's an easier. Sarah?
Sarah Lamb from the Mayor's Commission for Persons with Disabilities. We've been working very closely with the proponent on the design of Ipswich Street specifically. So we'll continue to work with them, including the specifics on the spacing of the bollards around the corner. Thank you.
Any other questions?
It has, I believe it's been out there, I know I have, project with family at that intersection, but they weren't proposing it that day, however, we did review it that day.
Okay.
First the preliminary walk, so.
So there's coordination, when we get to the CMP side, there's coordination between.
We're talking.
Sure.
Next up, the license plan for the canopy projections. I'll start on the Lansdowne side. So there, as it shows in the renderings, there is a canopy that's being proposed at the entrance to the theater, that it wraps around the front of the theater, on the corner, and on both sides, on Ipswich and on Lansdowne. So on the Ipswich Street, or in the Lansdowne Street side, there's actually a 5-foot building setback that exists on Lansdowne. So the canopy is about a 9-foot projection, but because the building's set back 5 feet, the canopy will only be projected into Lansdowne Street by about 4 feet. There are also blade signs and other building signage that will be off of the building. On the Lansdowne Street side, that signage actually occurs within that 5-foot building setback, so it doesn't actually encroach Lansdowne Street. Move on to the Ipswich side, where there is very similar with the 9-foot wide canopy, and on this side there is no building setback. So it will extend, the canopy will extend 9 feet into the public right of way, and the blade signs that come off of the building, they will extend about 4 to 5 feet off of the building.
And all of this is happening at a height above, I believe it's 12 feet up.
12 feet, yeah.
Oh, actually, it looks like the canopy is 14 feet up. So 14 feet off of the proposed surface grade.
Question on either production license?
Next up is the license for temporary earth support. So this is required for a partial basement level within the proposed theater. So that will be happening where on the existing triangle lot, not for the existing Fenway garage or laundry building. And in this particular case, it's going to be steel sheeting that will only be temporary during construction of this basement. And again, due to the building setback, the 5-foot building setback on Lansdowne Street, we won't actually be going out into the right-of-way of Lansdowne Street. It will encroach that 5-foot setback area. And then on Ipswich Street, we will be going out into the right-of-way for this temporary earth support.
Any questions on the conceptual?
Just comment that the proponent has been made aware of our concerns, that they had said that they were going to comply. So that right now there were no further comments unless something changes.
And last up is the pedestrian easement plan. So as mentioned before, there currently exists a 5-foot building setback along our frontage on Lansdowne Street. The purpose of this easement plan is to formalize that existing 5-foot building setback into a pedestrian easement.
Any questions on the ped easement? Anything else about that? No. A small thing on the specific repair plan. Bike parking, subway, bike share access. How are you thinking about bikes as a way when people are going to get to and from the theater?
I'm sorry?
How are you thinking about having bikes be a mode that people are using to get to or from the theater?
So we are envisioning for theater events a valet bike system, which is similar to what is being done at Fenway and has been pretty successful.
Right. And do you have a location in mind for that?
We've got a couple in mind, but they haven't been nailed down. One is across the street at the in the garage, and the other is in the vicinity of Gate B, out in the. And it really also depends on whether there's activity at the park.
Other questions or comments on any of the actions? Anything else you guys want to cover?
No, thank you very much.
All right, Todd? All set. Members of the public? All right, we'll see you on November 7th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is 18 Newbury Street, public alley number 438, Boston proper, specific repairs by Concepts International 1 LLC.
Sure.
Morning.
Morning. My name is Joel Dion from Concepts International. We're a retailer, apparel, shoes, originally in Cambridge. We currently operate a store, one store on Newbury, one store on Boylston. This project is a new store, flagship store that we're building out on Boylston. So pretty significant project, got into the building, and we've got some other work going in. The specific request here relates to just some work we need to accomplish in the alley, within the public right of way, in connection with some accessibility.
I'm Zach Richards with Bowler Engineering. Just going to run you through the plan real quick. It's a little more straightforward than the last few, so I'll try to keep it brief. Newbury Street up here. We're on the south side of Newbury Street. Boston Commons right down the road here. And we're focused in the public alley behind the property. We're going through permitting with BWSC right now to capture and infiltrate the required 1-inch stormwater volume. So what we're proposing is a tank inside the building in the basement and an injection well that's going to be located in the back alley here with an overflow to the existing storm sewer drain back there. So as part of that, we're also proposing to repave the sidewalk back here and reset the existing granite curb as needed. There was one comment from Boston Water and Sewer end of last week to include a gutter mouth curb detail, so that's going to be added next week for the final plan set. So I'll open it up to any comments from the board. Thank you.
Todd? All set. All right, members of the public? All right, see you in 2 weeks. If you can have the detailed plan set, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you all
so much.
Thank you.
All right, our final item of new business is 255 State Street, Old Atlantic Avenue, Boston proper, specific repairs on a petition by 255 State Street LLC.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Peter Kohansky again from Goulston and Stores. I'm here on behalf of 255 State Street LLC, the owner, not surprisingly, of 255 State Street. Joined by Peter Gorey from Boston Commercial Realty Partners, the owner's project manager for this, and Phil Moser from Simpson, Gumpertz and Hager, the project's engineer. 255 State is located on the southeasterly intersection of State Street and Atlantic Avenue. We were before you a couple years ago for some specific repairs and cafe license. Today we're seeking approval of a small amount of work within Old Atlantic Avenue that is part of a broader set of resiliency measures that the project is undertaking. Almost the entirety of the work is within private property. There's a little bit within Old Atlantic Ave. I'll turn it over to Peter Gorey to put it in context a little bit more.
Thanks, Peter. Not much more to add because we want to get into the details, but we're prepared to talk about the larger project if anyone has any questions about the sustainability work that we're working on. The proponent here also owns a large complex in the Seaport, so we're looking at all of our properties to be sure that we can survive through large storms like the ones we've had over the last few winters. Again, the project is only really for PIC on Old Atlantic, but we are in close coordination, particularly for the Transportation Department, with the Department of Transportation, State Department of Transportation, who's working on the sidewalk and accessibility repairs on State and Atlantic, so we're in close coordination with them in the field.
Peter, quick question. What will be the trigger that you will use to deploy the flood barriers?
Phil can speak to that, and I'll turn it over to Phil Moser from SGH. It really depends on the storm and the time of days, et cetera, whether people are in the building or not. So we can talk a little bit about how the system works and take your questions maybe after.
Sure. Phil Moser, licensed civil engineer with Simpson, Gumpertz and Hager in Waltham. I'd like to start with this excerpt from a survey plan. I see board members flipping through the drawings. I just want to address that Mr. Liming provided feedback to us that the property line was not sufficiently clear on the drawings, and we provided you a drawing set for all 10 openings, but really we need to focus on just one on Old Atlantic Ave. So that's where we'll be focusing.
Number 2.
Again, the building is directly across the street from the aquarium and the ferry terminal. So as you can imagine, from the proximity to the harbor, coastal flooding is a concern. And the building, it's an office building, but has retail restaurant space at the first floor. So it's this area here that we'll be focusing on for the specific repairs petition.
This next drawing was included in the submission, and again, we'll include the property line more clearly in the final submission to you. This park plan is in a different orientation. Now north is to the right, so we're looking at it head-on. And you also have a photo of that entrance. It's a Legal Seafoods restaurant. And this location faces directly towards the harbor. It's the most exposed to coastal flooding, and the owner asked us to design some type of flood mitigation, something better than sandbags, but something that's temporary, removable, and would not interfere in any way with people moving in and out of the building for the rest of the year. In terms of when this would be deployed, historically, floodwaters have reached this door threshold, I think 6 times in the past 14 years, so it's not every year, but when it does happen, they need to be prepared. And there are forecasts from NOAA, from the federal government's Oceanic and Weather Service, that combine the lunar cycles for high tide with any approaching storm surge, for example, from a nor'easter. So as part of the flood emergency response plan, the property manager will be monitoring those, and if they see that flooding is forecasted, they'll start to get ready. We have specified a flood barrier product that consists of aluminum channels and posts and some planks with gaskets. Those will be stored in the basement, and if a flood is imminent, they'll be brought up, and they can even start erecting the brackets, which are about the width of a door frame, that do not impede people getting in and out. But at some point, if the event is getting closer and a flood is still forecasted, then they would have to evacuate the building, and after the building is evacuated, then they would slip these planks into place in between those frames to protect the building from the flooding.
Phil, let me just add on the evacuation protocol. It'd be like for any other office building. This is a smaller Class A office building, as you know, compared to other towers in the city. But each floor and tenant has a captain, and the building would be evacuated using the doors. There's staff at the elevator banks to usher people out, depending on if we for instance started to deploy the brackets on one side or the other. We have entries on both the north and south elevation. Same with the restaurant. We would work through you know, the closing of the restaurant and people getting out. We don't expect these storms to be that type of imminent, though. We have hours likely. And then one last thing, Mr. Chairman, forgive me, just to say that the last piece of any evacuation would be a sweep of the building by the staff. So.
I maybe talking both correct me on this, but we have some standards we put in place for like the 2 other buildings that have.
Yeah, so we'll need a copy of the plan, including the NOAA trigger. So is this a warning, what's gonna be triggering it? And then we have people that you will need to notify upon the closing of this. Also, the perceived time it'll take you to put it up and then take it down. It might be less important for this building, but if you're doing another building, the notion of how long we expect to be closed off.
We'd be happy to provide that.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to address then why we're here before you for specific repairs. The flood shield product we're specifying is a manufactured product, which is great, it's tested, but it really needs to be installed against water-resistant masonry or concrete substrate. So that really gets to the gist of this project. You can't just bolt it down to brick pavers. It needs to be on a solid concrete waterproof foundation. And in most of the other locations that are not part of this submission, we've been able to do that within recessed entryways on private property. But we have this one location where, due to the geometry of the building, revolving door, and some articulations of the masonry, you can see here this red is the property line, which is at the face of the building. We need to provide a concrete foundation or a haunch onto the existing foundation that sticks out just less than 2 feet into the sidewalk, and will be completely flush with the sidewalk, but we need to, within that 2 feet, we need to be able to change the sidewalk material from bricks to concrete. And the last image I'll show you here is just a section detail of that, in case anyone was curious of the extent of it. So again, this is a section detail. The red line is facing building beyond. On the far side, on the right side of the drawing, we have the door, the recessed alcove, and then face of building, and the brick sidewalk out here in the public way. So we have this proposed concrete haunch. I think it's 1 foot 11 inches, so just under 2 feet, to provide a solid anchoring point for those flood shields when they need to be installed.
Yeah,
That's
do you know
not
the
over
width?
any utilities, right?
Well, do you know the width of the brick sidewalk between the, sort of the end of the concrete pad and the curb?
I don't have that dimension off the top of my head, but we can provide that to
That'd
you.
be great. I just want to make sure that there's still an accessible path of travel that remains even after the.
Yeah, Legal Seafoods has a large canopied patio, and then there's also an accessible path beyond, but we can provide you the net of each on the next plan.
That'd be great. And there's nothing that is, nothing protrudes from the concrete. This is all installed within. So when you install the aluminum pieces, et cetera, that sort of goes in, that slots into the existing concrete pad. There's nothing that's bolts or anything like that.
That's exactly right. We're providing embedded anchorage points, casting into the concrete or drilled in with epoxy. Those will be perfectly flush, and they'll have cap screws in them. It'll basically be an internally threaded insert that we can then hold onto in the future if needed.
Other questions on this?
Yes, have you met with the fire department about the system yet by any chance? Or EMS?
Do you know? Just through the ISD, Consigli, our contractor, already met with ISD and has a permit. We're just waiting for this process to compare the sort of PSC jurisdiction and the building department. I don't know, and Todd had asked as well, if the fire department operations or that local district has been contacted, and we're happy to discuss it and get direction from you. I don't know the answer, but we can get back with you.
Okay, we had a meeting regarding this.
Okay.
I want to say a year or two, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm asking the same questions that I asked at that meeting.
Okay.
Boston EMS, and I should be CC'd, I'm on that committee.
Great.
If you're not doing it already. We would want to have exits that are usable during a flood event, even during the event if necessary. I know you're gonna sweep the building, but there's the what if, there's the wild card factor, what if you miss something? There's also first responder access. In this particular case would be fire and EMS.
Right.
But they would have to be able to use it, or there would have to be some sort of a plan in place that they would need to be aware of. And that's if they, for whatever reason, someone got hurt, they had to get back into some of your maintenance staff and so forth.
Could be missed, right. Why don't we follow up maybe after through staff, and we can get both your request, Commissioner, for the, is that you'd like a narrative for the evac plan?
Yeah, so like the building, I mean, they need a
Which we
plan
have.
that says what they're gonna do, so that like whomever their staff is knows what to do. So we
Yep.
want a copy of that, and the triggers, and then we will give you a point of contact to insert into that should be notified from the city perspective that
Great.
these closures are happening. I know that it's not a big deal for this one, but going forward, the fire and EMS, we have a lot of them with floodgates. We have building fire connections that end up behind them, hydrants that end up on the other side of them. That all needs to be worked out. You can get pretty far with an evacuation as far as the comments and concerns that they're gonna have, but they're gonna wanna know where they can get it.
Right, and the points of contact, and again, we'll follow up right away.
Any obstructions that they would encounter when they get out there.
Understood with plans, yeah.
FYI, there was an event, if it wasn't last year, it was the year before, at the Long Wharf Marriott. Okay, and a transformer blew up and a couple of different things. So this is something I am very concerned with. I got stuck in both of them waist deep.
Okay.
All right, and I was dispatching staff to the events and fire and the whole 9 yards, all right? I am on the email chain. I do have these, for an electronic copy of these for review, which I haven't quite finished my comments on. So maybe we want to have a meeting, I'll give you some contact info, I'll set you up.
Please, and we assume it would be citywide contacts, but also district contacts. We're happy to do it any way you direct us, but there's, and if we can help establish a new protocol or help you with that, we're happy to do that as well.
Right,
This is new for us as well,
We'll
so.
do it right away. You're gonna be probably the first one.
Okay. We're happy to
You
be
wanna
the
get it
guinea
right.
pig.
Right.
Other questions, comments?
I think it already was brought up. I would just reiterate that Boston Water and Sewer Commission wants to make the request to make sure that the proponent check for underground utilities within the zone of the excavation for the barricade framing support.
Is it helpful that checks done both for this as well as number 2 on this list as well as the other one? Or do you want to trust me?
Yeah, so the other ones are in their buildings, footprint.
Yes, that's the point.
But if you're gonna cover something with cement concrete that's heavily reinforced, we don't want utilities underneath it.
Understood.
Other questions? Tom?
Good.
All right. So a few things to work out between now and November 7th.
Great.
We'll see you guys on November 7th.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our final item is an information discussion. The upcoming non-binding Dudley Square name change referendum, a presentation by the City of Boston Office of Neighborhood Services. I'm going to turn it over to Todd, who's going to provide a letter from the Office of Neighborhood Services with respect to the upcoming non-binding advisory question that will be on the ballot in a week and a half.
We received this letter from Jerome Smith, the Chief of Civic Engagement for the city, who was unable to be here for the hearing, but he requested that I read this letter into the record. Dear Chairman Osgood and members of the Commission, my office has been working with the Nubian Square Coalition on a non-binding public opinion advisory question. The proponents have fulfilled the initial requirements set forth to have the question placed on the ballot, and we look forward to working with your team to continue the necessary approvals. The coalition members have requested that the question be simple for the public to understand. Quote, do you support the renaming/changing of the name of Dudley Square to Nubian Square? Below is the list of wards and precincts that have been agreed to by the administration and the Nubian Square Coalition for the purpose of information analysis. Boston Ward 8, Precinct 3, Ward 8, Precinct 4, Ward 8, Precinct 7, Ward 9, Precinct 4, Ward 9, Precinct 5, Ward 11, Precinct 1, Ward 11, Precinct 2, Ward 11, Precinct 3, Ward 12, Precinct 1, Ward 12, Precinct 2, Ward 12, Precinct 3, Ward 12, Precinct 4, Ward 12, Precinct 5, Ward 12, Precinct 6, Ward 12, Precinct 8, and Ward 12, Precinct 9. The Nubian Square Coalition has spent the summer preparing for the fall ballot and have begun their public awareness campaign. We look forward to a healthy debate during the election season and will be happy to share the outcome with the Commission once concluded. Thank you for your attention to this effort.
Thanks so much, Todd. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.